Welcome to episode 9 of Uncomplicating Business for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers. My name is Sarah Torpy. I am a business coach. This is my podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am glad you're here. This week, we are going to talk about how to know if you are giving too much. And listen, if you are listening to a podcast for teachers, helpers, and givers, you know if you're giving too much. Like you probably are. It is the tendency of most people who are givers, and it takes one to know one. So I can completely relate. Before I jump into talking today about how you know if you're giving too much, I want to tell you a couple of quick things. The first is that if you are not in my group yet, it is called Uncomplicating Business for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers, just like this podcast is. You should come play. We are doing all sorts of fabulous things all winter and fall long. And, we're heading into like planning for 2023 season, and we do all that stuff in the group. The second thing is this week on Thursday, on November 17th, am holding a free webinar about change and about how we uncomplicate change. So if you have big change in your life, if you have small change in your life, if you're thinking about leaving teaching and starting your business or growing your business and making it your full-time thing, or just changing habits in your day-to-day. The webinar is going to be really, really useful. And I will drop the link to register in the notes on the podcast because you do need to register. It is on Zoom, but it is free and it's going to be amazing. It's really useful to think about how to make change easier on ourselves. And it's not, the answer is not changing, right? Because we have to change, but it's something to talk about. So those are the two things to start. Let's talk a little bit about giving. So oftentimes when clients come to me or people come into my group or people come into my world, they'll say, I'm just so tired. I feel burned out. They tell me that they feel underappreciated. They tell me that they feel like they're frustrated and they don't know why. And so often what I see in myself and in my friends, because friends, if you're a teacher or a former teacher, you're friends with a lot of teachers. Like they are your people and they're my people. So I know a lot of teachers personally. And, just like me, they want to give and help and teach. So this is something that happens to them too. If you are feeling like this, you might be overgiving. And when I think about overgiving, I think it is one of the most pervasive kind of like sneaky issues for us people who are givers that we have to contend with, particularly as business owners. But here's what I want to start with before you get all sweaty. If you are an overgiver, you probably know it. You were probably like, oh, shoot, that's me. And here's the thing I want you to know right out of the gate. What I am not going to tell you ever, as a coach on this podcast, in my group, as a human, anywhere else, is that the way to fix overgiving is for you to stop giving. It is not in your nature. It is not in mine. I don't feel good about myself and what I'm doing when I don't feel like I'm contributing to the larger good. And so, I'm not going to tell you to stop giving. That's not what we're going to do here. That's not the solution. And I'll be really honest, it's just a way to end up being mean to yourself because you're going to keep giving. Like you can't help yourself. You know it. If you're an overgiver, part of the reason you're in this boat to begin with is because you can't help yourself, because you really do want to serve and help and do for others, even if it costs you. So it is okay to be who you are. And what I want to help you do is really embrace that, but at the same time, be successful as a human and as a business owner, because we cannot give without boundaries, right? And so if you are an overgiver and you're like, crap, that's me, then this is for you. And if you're like, I don't know, am I an overgiver? And you're not sure, I wrote a list of things like, how do I know if this is me? So if you give a ton, if you're like, happy to help, let me do this with you, and you feel frustrated by what you get or what you don't get in return. And you're like, okay, if you are happy to help, but you also feel incredibly taken advantage of, or even just a little taken advantage of, or you feel unacknowledged, or you feel invisible, or you're like, man, they need me to contribute. I'm a valued contributor, but I just don't feel like they actually care if I do this, right? If you don't feel like people know what you're doing or appreciate it. The other thing is if you are giving to your own detriment to such a degree that you are giving for others, and there's just literally nothing left for you. It may be money, but it might also be time and energy. And the people that are like, oh, self-care. And you're like, as if there's a minute to spare in the day and I just collapse, right? If you are giving so much that there is no space left for you, this is you. And if you're really just like, I don't know any other way to be, I get it. Please know I get it. I see you. And what I want you to know is that there are options to handle this. So, it's funny. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I think the overgivers of the world all have the same solution set to this particular problem of feeling burned out and frustrated and overwhelmed and undervalued and all of the things that come with this. And the subset of the list is basically I'm going to quit and they're going to miss me. I'm going to move to a deserted island and never speak to anybody again. I'm going to throw my phone in the ocean. I'm going to hide in the bathroom. I'm going to take a little mini vacation by myself. I'm just going to yell at them until they appreciate me. And then that's kind of the subset. That's the fixes where you're like, I'm just going to move to a deserted island and there's not going to be a problem anymore. There will be no one but me to give to. If that's your solution set, that's, I feel you. And also, as well as I do, it's not a solution set. The other thing is you probably have thought all these things and then just continued to do what you were doing because you don't know any other way. So I get it, and I get it. Please know that I get it. Here's the problem with all of this as a business strategy. Long-term overgiving, which we are going to define really as a mismatch, an unbalance, an imbalance between what you're giving and what you're getting in return. An imbalance of giving and getting as a business strategy doesn't work. It works in the short run, right? It'll work for 6 months. It'll work for 8 months. It might even work for a year. But in the long term, what it does is burn you out. Nothing is more effective at creating burnout than overgiving. Truly, it is a master at that. So if you are going to want to succeed for the long term, we have to bring the equation of giving and getting, giving and receiving into more balance. And the thing is this does not mean you have to stop giving at all. It doesn't mean you can't continue to give a lot. It just means that we have to change what you're receiving, right? When we talk about, I'm a math teacher by trade, you may or may not know this. Originally, I was a math teacher and I still teach math to kids part-time at the college because I can't help it. Speaking of overgiving. But essentially, if we think about it as imagine a pan balance. Right now, if you're overgiving, your giving pan is way down at the bottom. Your getting pan is way up high in the sky. It's like a teeter-totter, right? Where one person is way too heavy for the other. It's like an adult versus a little 2-year-old. The adult side is the giving side, and it's way, way, way too low. So we can do two things when we're going to balance this equation. One, we can put an adult on the other side of the teeter-totter with the little kid and even out the weight. Or we can put a little kid on the giving side. So we can either balance out by giving less or getting more or some combination thereof. For myself, for most of my clients, for most of the people I know and love, it is not just about changing what you get. It is usually there's some sort of changing what you give, because what I find with people 99 times out of 100 is there are things they're giving they don't want to do, right? That you're giving things that you're like, oh, God, I hate doing that, but I'm happy to help, right? And that's, let's stop giving those things. I know that sounds simplistic, but actually, like, it's the truth. Sometimes you're like, okay, I just don't want to do that anymore. And we can say no to that. So it is really about bringing this into the balance. So for the next 4 weeks, give or take, on this podcast, what I'm going to do is, this is the opening episode of this. And then we are going to talk about how to rebalance your giving and your receiving. It's felt like a holiday thing to talk about, right? And how to sort of get your overgiving in line so that you can both be a big giver, but also receive and feel less burned out, less frustrated, less invisible, less undervalued as a result. There's 4 steps here. They are to decide what you're giving and what you're not giving, to check into your beliefs about giving and receiving, to set some boundaries, and then to flout them, honestly, because we don't learn how to hold our boundaries unless we like set them on fire sometimes. It's like putting bumpers on the bowling alley and then throwing your ball into the next lane over. So we're going to talk about all those things over the next 4 weeks. My hope is for you, what I want to give you is a way to come to balance in your own business where you feel really good about what you're getting in return for what you're giving. That really matters to me. That, I think, is the recipe for successful business that so many teachers, helpers, and givers miss. So if this is you, keep on the lookout next week. They're always on Tuesdays, podcast episodes. And if you know you want to be notified about these, please go into your podcast platform, whatever you use, iTunes, whatever, and follow and subscribe. Because if you do, you'll just get them delivered to you and they'll be on your device, which is what I do all the time with all my millions of things I listen to. And if while you're there, you want to rate the podcast so more people find it, that'd be amazing. But here's the thing. There is a way to balance this. You don't have to change your fundamental nature, and you can enjoy it much more. You can be more successful by still giving a lot and by thinking about what you want to receive. So that is what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. I will see you on the next episode. And in between, if you're like, I want to get this in order, but I need help, I am here for that. This is the kind of work we do in coaching. This is exactly why I'm here. I have all of my clients. We change the balance of the giving and the receiving. Often that's by changing pricing, but there's lots of little ways and big ways. We take things off the list of what they offer. We add things that they offer. We change, who they're working with and who they're not. We change all kinds of things so that it feels really good to them. Because my job is to help you take the things you hate out of your business so that you can love all of it. So if you are interested in coaching and really getting this accountability and getting this started right now, so that in the new year, like, this just all feels really good. Like, we could have this entirely adjusted before you start the new year right now, because we're in November. Like, this is not going to take long, I promise. If you want this adjusted, please, I'm going to link my calendar in the show notes. Just go to the website. It's torpycoaching.com, or send me an email. It's sarah@torpycoaching.com. And let's talk about it. Like, I am here for you. That's my giving. So I'm ready to talk if you're ready to talk. And if not, I will see you on the next episode next week. We're going to talk next week about deciding what to give and what not to give. So I'll see you there.